Hi, this is Brian from the Sleeping Elephant. I'm going to review The Innovators, How a Group of Hackers, Geniuses, and Geeks Created the Digital Revolution by Walter Isaacson. This is pretty much a history book of how the technological revolution turned into the current digital age that we're experiencing right now. It goes back to Ada Lovelace and how she came up with the idea of poetical science, where it was not really just the hardware and the components or of the machinery of the robot, the first programmer, and the first algorithm. This is somewhere around 1850s. Then the code-breaking machine Colossus that were used, and the code-breaking machine Colossus, which was used to break codes from World War II. The rise of the personal computer and the internet. It mentions companies such as AOL, Google, Atari, Wikipedia, Apple, and surprising collaborations and startups, and how Atari and Sequoia Capital started each other. All these moments in the past were times of innovation and disruptions. Technology creates that 10 times factor all the way up to 100 times plus. The summary of this book is all these creative technologies and innovations happen because of cooperation and collaborations, disregarding the patents, who created the idea, and who takes credit. The legendary Steve Jobs, audacious, a misfit, and a rebel, created the blue box and his own personal reality distortion field. Isaac wrote a biography on Steve Jobs, so he's an expert. Although I don't want to pay attention to everything he says, Steve Jobs had a bitterness side to him as well as an intensity, and it's going to be hard to relate for someone who's being fired from their own company that he created. All this innovation brought a hacker mentality, the rise of coders. No education needed, just work hard and experiment. This brought forth video games to where they are today, all the way from Pong to Call of Duty, Chopper Gunners, or Counter-Strike knife parties. To understand technology and the 10x or the 100x efficiencies, you must understand the Moore's Law, which is say they could fit double the amount of transistors on a microchip every 18 months or so, which gets things smaller, cheaper, faster, and more powerful. And this pattern just continually tops its former self. Technological innovation had its spurs definitely in the Silicon Valley, where there's not a hierarchy like the East Coast of the United States. It's got a laid back, more share and talk to everybody. Not rigid. Not for making tremendous amount of profit like a bank, but creating products to connect. It was not just about ego. There is this cross between a salesman versus a nerd, and how those fluctuate. Make sure you understand the open source, which is a tribal gift. Stuart Brand said, information wants to be free. So set it free in the public domain, and not have the government try to control everything. That was the attitude of these misfits. And to keep it as cheap as possible to create more opportunities for collaboration and connection, especially with it being worldwide. Simplicity without the bureaucracy. Explore on your own and free publishing. Money is just a story. And understand Burning Man's tribal gift. With all these technological innovations, there was bitterness for recognition, such as some people did not get the Nobel Prize, yet they were jealous, such as Shockley, and people like Tesla who did not get credit during that time. The I deserve mentality, the ego, the great expectations had to deal with patents, where many of the inventors were chasing each other to get that patent or to protect their patents. Also, there's a good quote from the Twitter CEOs, and it shows the ego of Jack Dorsey, such as when you have all these collaborators, one will want to take full credit, such as I created Twitter. No one wants to be marginalized. For the feminists, most of this innovation that Walter Isaacson credits, and one of the inventors also names his daughter after, is Ada Lovelace, which came up with the idea of how programming will be more important in her notes. It is hard to prove all this, but you can see how when there's a female in the tech field, it gets a ton of attention. You could kind of look at, are females being marginalized nowadays, or are they not? I do think he added this to keep the book interesting, because all these inventors are male. Men create the robots, and the females are programming them. Because back then, programming was not given a big title. It was something for lesser minds to do. It creates a little bit of tension. Also, interesting fact is Susan Wojcicki rented out her house to the Google founders to start up their business. And then eventually, she was promoted within Google to run YouTube and is now the CEO. Very rare in Silicon Valley that you see females being successful, but there are some. However, nowadays you are seeing individuals using victim complex techniques, such as double minority victim causes or just excuses to bring the businesses down, where they're using law and victimhood to use as leverage. This will be a big issue going forward. This was a very interesting book to read since I am from the Bay Area. There's many people I did not know who they were talking about, but I'll further research them later on. It does give a good bird's eye view of the technological revolution and the digital age in the past 30 or 40 years. The internet really came about in 1993, where it started to pick up speed. And look at where we are today. You can check out his other books. He wrote a biography for Albert Einstein, Steve Jobs, and Henry Kissinger. And it was written well-rounded, just enough to keep it interesting because it is somewhat of a history book, somewhat like Will Durant's History of Civilization, where it was very interesting. There's never really a dull moment to lose your attention. I would check out some of my other favorite companies that are related to this digital revolution, such as Snapchat, the Amazon Kindle, Evernote, Instagram, Uber, are just a few of the rising companies. And this is just the beginning, especially with, I think, Amazon. Amazon is going to be a huge company. There's nothing that could stop that business. As well as you can see growth in the cloud and mobile. And also I wanted to mention that this book is about collaborating and connecting, where these innovators were working with people or in teams. And the individuals that ran on their own did not succeed as well or were cast aside. And you can see this business mentality where if you have a great idea, money and collaboration, you are on your path to success. And they were a group of talented geeks that worked together to create the world we are today. However, I think being an individual is becoming more important now, with everything having a social element to it, where guys need to be able to do things on their own. Individualism is a noble path. Thanks for listening.